Hey, Jantans and Jantanites, it's Jason Desmond from the Jantan Collective with yet another interesting chat on What's Up With That. This is where we question, we learn, and we grow. That's the most important. Now, the thing is, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below because we love hearing from you. And it might really be about something that we talked about before, or you have a thought about something that, you know what, guys, you should talk about this, and we haven't. Well, get in touch. We will get on it ASAP. Now, when I first saw these stats, I was shocked because apparently, according to Bank Negara Malaysia, 47% of Malaysian youths have high credit card debts. What are they doing to get high credit card debts? That's the first question, right? Also, in general, I suppose, what do we get wrong about debt, right? How can we get out of it? And ultimately, also, in this day and age, why are so many people still in debt? Seriously, what's up with that? And to find out more, we have with us Pauline Teoh, financial planner. Pauline, before I get into all this and also my dodgy online shopping activities, Pauline, how did you get into financial planning?
Oh, it's actually a very interesting story. I have never actually thought of going into the finance line, to be really frank. For me, it all started when I was so tired of work one day working, in MNCs, and I just quit. And then next thing I thought, hey, let's just try something new, And I went into insurance line at first. And I find that, it's quite interesting because I didn't quite believe in insurance to start off with because it's quite a sham,
You didn't believe in insurance,
I don't.
yet you started selling insurance.
Exactly. Because what happened is that I had a few agents that serviced me, and then after 1-2 years, you ask them for help, right? They disappear.
Right.
And then it's like you're talking to different people that has no interest to service you, basically. And I was like thinking, what's wrong with this industry? If everyone swears by it, it's so important, right, to have insurance in our life.
Insurance is very, very important. Yeah,
it is.
But
in terms of the service level, I found that it's really weird that no one really gives you proper explanation of what you're buying into, what kind of coverages we have.
And then the moment your insurance agent calls you, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to answer this.
Oh my God, do I answer this call? Can
I
not answer? Yeah, it does feel that way. So I went into the insurance line hoping to bust this myth. And I realized that I've got clients of mine that's very happy to, get really clear explanations from me. And they started asking me like, hey, can you actually help me on, my investments? I have no idea what my investments, like how they're doing, and my agent doesn't really explain things as clearly as you do. And I'm like, hey, I'm not I'm an insurance girl, I'm not a, investment guru. So I said, you've got to go back to your agent. And the more and more of these situations occurred, I was like thinking, hey, maybe there is a reason why, I should be looking into those areas.
Yeah.
So that's how I came upon, like financial planning, because financial planning itself is amazing. You can actually cover all key financial areas and be able to help clients, to move way forward to whatever areas that they're thinking of.
So you kind of stumbled into it in a way.
Yeah, in a way, by accident, but it was, I would say it's a really honest mistake that turned out to be really fantastic for me. Yeah.
Right. You're absolutely right about at one point if you're an insurance agent, it's just insurance, but now it covers a lot more, but you need to study a lot more. So did you have to go into get a certificate, certified and stuff?
Yes, definitely. So I think another major issue that we have in the industry right now is everybody calls themselves a financial planner. But the real question is, are they? Because in terms of financial planning, right, most of my clients initially when I did the switch, most of them still thought, oh, you're still insurance, right? Or, oh, you've actually moved on to doing investments. Is that why you call yourself a financial planner? So the real thing in Malaysia is that people who are financial planners and licensed are basically able to do everything in terms of all financial matters, to give you the advice. Right. So I think this is where a lot of misunderstanding of this entire industry is currently happening. And I will tell you a joke, JD. Do you know that I've even saw a flyer one day, Alongs or your loan sharks actually themselves financial planners too.
Yeah, they do. Like, in a way, which is why a lot of people go like, I'm a financial planner. I'm like, wait a minute.
Right? Like, But how many of them are real ones versus dodgy ones, right? Like, really?
I always wonder about stuff like that. Like, when are you allowed to call yourself a financial planner? And also, you know what? Another thing that I suppose gets a lot of people wondering is, what's the difference between a financial planner? I mean, some people come up to me and I like, hey, I can help you manage your wealth. I'm like, I don't have wealth. And to be honest with you, dude, I've seen the car you drive. I'm like, you shouldn't be calling yourself a wealth manager as well. Because
Right.
the image is wrong, right? So what's the difference between a financial planner and a wealth manager?
That's a very, very good question, actually, JD. Glad you asked it. So basically, if I can actually help you understand a little bit more, a licensed financial planner basically has to either do a CFP or a RFP in Malaysia. So once you get that certificate, right, it's just a professional paper.
So CFP is Certified
Financial Planning, and then RFP is Registered Financial Planner. That's a local paper. So what happens is that the papers, these two papers, either one of it that you do actually means that you understand the concepts of financial planning. But it doesn't make you a financial planner. Okay. So to be licensed, what will happen is that you would need to get registered with Bank Negara and actually not even all, and Securities Commission, because in Malaysia, Bank Negara takes care of offshore investments or even matters pertaining to insurance itself, whereas Security Commissions actually looks into financial planning, as in doing a plan for individuals, as well as investment matters with the help of FIMM. So this is where these two bodies, if you're registered, and I can actually share with you links, right, how to qualify your financial planner, whether or not they're really legit or just abusing the name of financial planning.
Right. So I've got a checklist here. So can you do this? Can you do this? Basically, it's like a checklist, is it?
Yeah, it's a checklist. So basically, I've seen a lot of people who call themselves financial planners, right? They end up just talking about one topic. They are only talking about insurance or investments, but basically, they are not 360. They're not looking into all aspects of your financials as how you should be viewing finance in the first place.
So you plan all the way to your death in a way, and also wills and everything?
In a way. Basically, as a financial planner, what I really do for clients, right? I start off by asking what are their goals in life. So what is the goals that you really want to achieve this lifetime? They will give me short-term goals, mid-term goals, or even up to long-term goals. And my job is to have a look and review for them currently whatever finances that they actually have pertaining to insurance, to unit trust, or any investments that they may have in and out of the country. And I look into all these aspects for them, down to cash flow, like how well is your financial standing is, down to even their net worth, and figure out for them where you want to go, where you are right now, how to help you get there the most efficient and effective manner. So this is what a financial planner really does for you. It's actually 360, because in terms of finance, you change something on one end, it will affect another end somehow or another. So the balance between all your finances has to be done very well. You have to have a holistic view of what's really happening with your finances before you can actually make any decision that you want moving forward.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just going to impact one or the other. There's always a sacrifice that you have to make.
So you're not getting the full picture.
You're not getting the full picture. And if you work with insurance agents or even unit trust agents, right, they don't actually ask you what your goals are. They normally ask you how much you have, what's your budget, and then they help you get there.
I'm wondering, in your line of work now, with what's going on, because people have been losing jobs and God knows what, their salaries have been cut. Some people made a lot more money. It's very strange, because I've been doing the studies on all this, right? But some people, for the majority, there's no M40, B40 anymore. It's just one big lower rung of people right now. Is business affected right now for you? Because are people more in debt right now?
I would say it's a half and half. Like in any normal country situation, right? The rich will always be rich, the poor will always remain poor, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the middle level that is neither here nor there. So I would say in terms of Malaysia currently, it's still the same picture. But what happens is that those who are either having a pay cut or has been recently retrenched are definitely very badly hit at this point in time. Things are really not looking rosy for the country, as we've already been like 1 year plus, having frequent lockdowns every now and then, and it's really not helping situations. Right. So I think in terms of this, the only way that any good individual that can mitigate the situation is via only one thing: having really healthy finances and really clear planning. That's the only way that we can mitigate this.
But it's kind of tough in some cases, depending on which level you're on, right? That you only have so much to survive. And in some cases, some people move to the city to actually have a better life, but cost of living is so much higher and everything. Then they incur all these crazy debts, right? So let's talk about all the different kinds of debt there are out there. Of course, like if you're an entrepreneur, it's a whole different thing. For a company, if you have debts, sometimes it's a good thing. We're going to talk about it in another show. But for an individual, what are the most common debts that are out there?
I think for the normal individual, credit card debt is one of the most common ones. Okay, and then you definitely do have like personal debts. That you would take on. If let's say you're a student, you definitely have to still service your student loans. And the next two things that is very common is actually a mortgage loan, either buying a property, either a house or for personal consumption, and also hire purchase loans, which is your vehicles loans.
Right.
So these would be the most common debts that any individual would have.
But the most, I suppose, it depends on which level you're at, right? But is credit card debt surprisingly very, very high for Malaysians? I mean, like, what is when people use their credit cards, like, what is the most common mistake people make?
I think there are a few, if you were to ask me. First and foremost, they get very confused. Like, do they pay the minimum amount or do they need to pay the outstanding amount or the statement amount? So I think a lot of people, when they see, hey, I can only pay this small amount of few hundred, but I actually struck for 3,000 already, right? They would just go, okay, I just paid the minimum. But without really realizing what's really happening to them in that sense. So that's how they very easily fall into the debt trap.
Because then they'll pay for the next 1,000 years.
Yep, or forever. In that sense.
And then after you have to sign up your first baby like Rumpelstiltskin. But the thing is, though, you obviously, ideally, and this is, my mom has told me this many, many years ago, when you sign up for anything on credit card, make sure you pay for the whole thing, that you are able to pay for the whole thing. Paying minimum is different to those 12-month installment with your credit card when you buy a washing machine. That's very different, right?
Totally different, JD. So basically, if you are saying minimum amount is actually, like, for example, you're buying a washing machine, it's actually 1,000 ringgit, right? So what happens is that if you're paying minimum amount, it's maybe just 100 ringgit. So your washing machine costs 1,000. You should be settling 1,000 ringgit.
Yeah.
Unless the retailers actually offer you 0% interest payment.
Yes.
So then you can actually make it as an installment payment, which does not have any interest charge to you. It's just that your payment for that 1,000 ringgit is now broken down to 12 months, 6 months, or whatever payment a period that they actually allow you to select.
Right. Okay. So basically in that way, that the bank and whatever it is, the company has had a deal where, like, hey, if someone signs on with this, I will take less money. I still make a profit, but I will take less money. But we're kind of, in a way, giving the people what they want. But for the most part, technically, based on what you say, if I pay, let's say if it wasn't installment interest free, 1,000 ringgit washing machine, I pay 100 ringgit a month. But technically, it's allowed. I need to pay 12 months. I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't I just pay 200 ringgit extra? Technically, people don't do the math a lot of the times, right?
That's
so
right.
Is that a big problem, that people just don't want to see the details and just sign on something?
I think in that sense, yes, because many of us don't really study or even like do the calculation, the math, like what you just clearly said. And I would also say, if you remember last time, there was one company that everything you can go on credit one, you can buy your furniture, you can buy, Yeah.
We shall not mention what it is, but yes, we do.
I cannot mention names.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is also very, very dangerous, because you see, a lot of them get themselves into debt without even doing the calculation. If you buy a sofa and it's 3,000 ringgit cash, but if you're actually paying on installment basis, it's more than 3,000 ringgit.
Exactly.
So if it's actually 4,000 ringgit, that means you're paying 1,000 ringgit in interest.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But in a way, if you're trying to set up a home and you're new at it, I suppose some people go like, I'm okay to pay this extra one, but if it's just the sofa and everything else, I'm in control. That's okay. It's just when they start
everything. Yeah.
In this place that we know of, that you can get everything. You walk in and I'm like, hey, TV, this, that, fridge, sofa, bed, and everything. Then next thing you know, you're basically
shopping for everything.
Exactly. And for lack of a better term, you end up with a mammoth debt, I suppose we're gonna call it that, right? So how do people avoid that? I mean, especially if you're a young person just getting into some kind of career and then you're just trying to set up a home or something, how do you avoid credit card debt?
Okay, so I think there's a few ways to do it. Like what I mentioned earlier on, right? You need to actually have like capital or money that you have actually saved in order for you to so-called furnish your home. So a lot of people, I think if you were to ask me, right, get carried away when you're very excited, you know, it's my first new home. Of course, I want to make it as comfortable as possible. Then you go all out, you know, just to do this crazy, massive shopping without having a budget in hand.
Yeah.
So lesson number one, not having a budget will get you into debt much faster. Because if you have a budget set for something, you would play around that budget that you already have. If I've only got 1,000 ringgit, I've got to shop for something within this 1,000 ringgit that I'm able to spend. That will actually help you have check and balance in terms of your budgeting. But a lot of us with a credit card, we don't even do that math anymore because we think that, you know, we've got credit limit of XYZ and therefore I can shop to the max.
Yeah.
Without figuring out how do I settle, you know, today's payment. So that's one of the most dangerous things. And
I suppose I'm not saying that when you're young, you should be allowed to do that because nobody should be getting into crazy credit card debt. And what's worse, it's not just one credit card. Some people have like 3 or 4 credit cards and then I'm like, I'll roll all 4 of them and then I'll try to figure it out, right? You don't, you end up messed up. And but one thing that you need to kind of get, I suppose, especially if you're living in KL, right? Or any urban environment where you have to get from point A to point B, you have to get a car. So what are the common mistakes that people make from getting a car? Actually?
Okay, for cars, I think the most common mistakes that I've seen many of my clients doing, especially the younger ones, right, is getting an expensive car when it doesn't quite make sense. So most of the new freshies, you know, like for example, when I first came out, the only car I could actually afford that time was a Kanchil lah, you know. That's about my budget lah, you know. But a lot of people nowadays don't actually want a small car. They want at least to get a nice Honda City, you know, a nice a Vios, you know, and it's not cheap. So easily a lot of the youngsters, the first mistake they make is buying a very nice car, which is actually more than half the salary.
Are you allowed to do that though? I thought you're technically don't do the math and like what you can repay and everything, right?
Yeah. So I think in terms of this, if let's say you have a very stable job and you know you are from MNCs, it's not a difficult for banks to actually approve your loans in some ways.
Right.
It's not that difficult because you can actually substantiate. I don't have any other loans. I've only got this one loan, and it makes sense. Your debt service ratio, you wouldn't have any major issues getting the car loan. But what would actually happen is that if you think about it, that is just a loan for a car, right? We have not budgeted in petrol, servicing, your insurance, your road tax, and that all really will come up to a very, very huge amount.
Yeah.
So I think this is things that a lot of youngsters or even some of us actually have made in the past as well, you know, getting properties, assets that we don't actually do the math and calculation like in totality, how much is it going to cost us? If you want to buy a property, we just think about, a down payment only.
Correct, yeah. But then there's especially those 100% loan kind of thing, which is another thing that we're going to get into. But actually a big one on car loans though, right? And I've always wondered about this because especially if we're trying to get into just, you need to buy a car. Then my thing was get a basic car and then after that you can use the car to put the down payment for the next car, whatever it is you want to upgrade. But a lot of people, as you mentioned earlier, it's like, hey, I've just gotten a great job. I graduated from a good university. You know, let's reward ourselves with a nice car, right? A Japanese car, whatever it is, right? But it's still expensive. And then they look at a 5-year loan, it's like, woo, I can't repay that. Then they go for a 7-year loan. Now there's a 9-year loan as well. What's the best loan period that is that you should be aiming for?
Actually, the best is the shorter, the better, I would say. The reason being, a car is basically a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
You buy the car today, say it's 50,000. When you sell it 2 years after, it's not going to be more than 50,000. It's easily half that cost, that price that you got. So it really doesn't make any sense for you to be splurging on a car, because if you could save, in terms of 50% of whatever you pay to the bank for the car, you most probably be a little bit more richer, along the way, rather than spending it just on an asset called a car.
Yeah, because a lot of them go, but if you get a better car, more expensive car, the depreciation rate is lower. Not really, especially if you buy like a Continental car and everything drops like crazy.
Yeah.
You touched on this earlier, property. And the base lending rate goes up and down. You never know. Then there's always like in the news, like people are, it's a great time for you to buy, and then you get suckered in. But to do that, you get into some serious debt sometimes because you can't afford to pay the loan in some cases. But as you mentioned, there are a lot of other things involved, not just the down payment, right? So what do people get wrong about property and loans?
Okay, in terms of properties, I think a lot of people just are very much concerned about down payment. They don't factor in, for example, legal fees.
Yeah,
stamping
fees.
Stamping fees. If you're buying a second-hand property, it's valuation, that needs to be done. So a lot of these hidden costs is not something that they budget for. Okay, and the second thing also is like what we briefly mentioned earlier on, right? You want to furnish the place. It's an empty unit, right? You just buy from developer, it's totally empty. You still need money to furnish this place, but they don't actually have allocations for a new property either. So these are things that I think we need to be very careful. When we start to plan to buy a property, timing is definitely very, very important. Location is also very, very important if you're talking about appreciation for properties. But at the same time, I think it comes back to individuals' cash flow. Like, looking into property, maybe, by this time, if you are thinking of buying a house, you definitely already have a car, and other loans, for example, are you in credit card debts? Or, how liquid are you on a monthly basis before we even talk about buying a property?
Yeah.
Because if you've got a lot of debts, or overheads that is actually already, you're barely able to breathe, and, you go on to a property, that's most probably the straw that really breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, but a lot of people always say, why are you renting? You're paying money out for nothing for something that you don't own. But sometimes renting is not a bad thing, is it?
It's not. I think in terms of renting, if you think about it, you don't like a certain location, you change lah.
Yeah.
Change feng shui,
Exactly, correct. Yeah, that's how I always feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that it's not wrong. It's just that in the past, and I think a lot of Malaysians swear by property. And I think if if we think about it, parents will always say, hey, better have your own home, a roof over your own head. Why rent? What if, let's say, tomorrow the owner wants the house back or sells the property, where you going to live? So it's always, this traditional way of thinking, the belief that having your own home, owning one, is actually better than renting. But I would say things are now starting to change. A lot of youngsters, if you think about it today, for $500,000 ringgit for new property launches, how many of us can really afford to buy that?
Exactly. If it was like back in the day, it was like 100 grand or 150,000 for a 1,000 square foot apartment. Yeah. Now it's like, geez, I got to sell a kidney or something, right? Just to buy, let's just say you have a home. You already own a place, right?
Yeah.
And then you haven't finished paying for it yet.
Yeah.
And then you look, oh my God, interest rates here, there, everywhere. Then after that, you keep hearing this word. And I used to work in a bank. I'm not going to mention which bank, but we used to really push for refinancing. Is refinancing a good idea, especially now where interest rates are low?
Super low, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it depends. Because if you're talking about really, really old loans at this point in time, where interest rates used to be like, 6%, 8%, it's something that a lot of people are very, very, very tempted to refinance the property. But hey, if you are very close to, completing your loan repayment, do you still want to rock the boat? Because currently, if you are almost going to, complete your home repayment, in 10 years time, you are most probably paying a lot more for principal rather than interest.
Correct. Yeah. Towards the end, right? Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So you're actually looking at the cost in terms of refinancing the property, because you think that, hey, maybe with 100,000, I can get lower interest and stretch it for another, I don't know, X number of years, instead of, finishing it within like 10 years. rethink it again, because again, there is hidden cost to refinancing. The
Right.
banks definitely will profit more because, you're paying more interest, right? Who wouldn't want a good paying client of interest at this point in time?
That's
you
true.
know? So I think there's a lot of things that we really need to consider when we say refinancing. And sometimes I think more importantly is when you talk about property, what kind of loans do you have with the bank? What arrangements do you have with the bank? If you're on a flexi loan arrangements, there's so many ways that you can actually counter this without, you can basically own a property, zero interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have
Yeah.
a flexi loan versus a conventional loan that you're
When you
pretty
mean
much
flexi loan, that means in some cases, like I take a 10-year loan, but then usually there's a holding period of maybe like 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. But after that, if I just got a ton of money in, I can just basically pay it all off and then I'm clear, right? That's what you mean by flexi loan.
Yeah. Or you
Okay.
actually have 100,000 or 200,000, you just dump the money there to knock off the interest.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's actually, you can actually already counter this if you do have some money, put aside, like emergency funding, just dump it there.
No, inherited some money somewhere along the way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think there's actually many ways that you can actually leverage on what you already have rather than just refinancing. But it all comes back again, what loan arrangements you actually have with the bank before you decide what's the best course of action.
Yeah. And you're right about other hidden, not really even hidden costs. A lot of people just don't want to listen and don't want to know about it. But if let's say you buy a condo, right?
Yeah.
The payment doesn't end there. Technically, you have maintenance fees to pay. There's constant, and then you might want to get a second parking lot or whatever it is. So there's a lot of other things that go into that people don't get into. And I think they really should teach this in school because I think
we should.
Right?
We should.
But what? Talking about school though.
Yeah.
Studying is not cheap nowadays as well. I mean, like if you want to get a degree or something. I remember when I took my degree, I took a loan, right? And my dad serviced it, and I think at some point I took over repaying the loans and everything. Student loans, and we've been hearing this in the news for years about some students not paying back their PTPTN loan.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
But some people don't take PTPTN loan; they take bank loans for their student loans. What are the mistakes there?
Okay, I think if you're talking about PTPTN loans, right, I would say that by not paying back those loans, you actually deprive another kid out there that needs the loan.
Okay.
Because it's only so much money in the pool, right? In order for them to one kid done, you pay back, we can actually support another kid.
But that is if they have a heart. And then they think about some other person, right? But most of that, I don't think these kids even care, right?
Yeah, but I don't think that you can actually get away scot-free because if you don't pay, they also do charge you interest. So eventually you still have to pay back the government, like you can't run. It's like tax. You can't evade tax, right? You still have to pay it anyhow anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept, I believe. But if you were to take a personal loan, I think it's actually much higher in terms of the interest that, the banks charge you for it.
Right.
If it's a personal loan. So I would say, for parents who are thinking of applying for loans, do consider the PTPTN loans first, because at the end of the day, it's actually much lower in terms of the interest versus a personal loan.
There's so much I want to ask you right now. It's a big issue right now because people are in debt right now. People, especially now, and we don't know when it's going to end. This might, the long-lasting effects might be 10 years, 20 years, you never know, right?
Yeah,
but
that's true.
People have been getting into debt for the longest time for the silliest things. I've actually heard, you talked about personal loan and everything earlier, where the interest rates are much higher. I've heard people pay, like max out their credit card, take out a personal loan, and also refinance their home or something for their wedding. Not the marriage, just the wedding. And I'm like, that's number one, to start off a marriage in debt is already a no-no, right? So
it's definitely a no-no.
Is that what they call the debt trap? Because there's this term that people just throw around like nothing, or you're in a debt trap right now. What is the debt trap?
Basically, debt traps is like what you've just explained. You do things without realizing what's the consequences and how taking a loan, for example, or maxing your credit cards or overspending from the budgets that you are, the boundaries of the budgets that you actually have set for yourself, and how this could easily be a snowball effect to bigger debts. So basically, that's the debt trap. Anything in terms of the financial arena could possibly be a debt trap that you're walking into. I mean, you're happy, you know, you want to get married, you know, you need money, you go and borrow money and you think that it's going to be happy ever after. And then realizing that it's not working out, things kind of like fall apart and you're stuck in this massive debt. So I think this is the same thing as well in terms of any situation. You could even be having, you know, issues now with just credit cards or, you know, with 3-4 loans lumped together. I've even heard before, JD, you know, in the 90s, there's a lot of people who buy property in bulk.
Yeah.
You know, people who buy, you know, 5-10 properties kind of thing, you know, and then they're only earning like, you know, 4-5 figure income. And
I always wonder how they did that.
So can you just imagine at this point in time now when no one's renting from you, you've got 10 properties, great, and maintenance fees to pay? Can you just imagine what kind of debt are you in?
How can I always wonder how people don't know these things. It's like, I'm planning for the future, I will get this kind of money, but you don't know. Like, that was the perfect time. You don't know COVID might just hit and basically screw everyone over in this case, right? Because everyone like I remember negotiating the price down on my condo, like down to like, and it's a renter's market right now.
Yep,
in a way, right?
It is.
But one thing that doesn't change, I suppose, is credit cards. You can't negotiate credit cards, right? And have you ever had to deal with someone because you're trying to plan their financials, right? And then you want to long-term this, that, whatever. And then they come over to you, we want to plan our finances. And then you look at their numbers, they're like, you have how many credit cards and they're all maxed out? How do you help someone like that?
I think it comes back to bare basics then. If the fundamentals of, you know, their spending habits, their mindset about money, you know, how do they actually, you know, correct those aspects first before we actually move on to bigger things that they want to achieve? Because think about it, the situation that they're in, very likely if you've maxed out on everything, your cash flow is not going to be good. It's definitely a negative cash flow situation on a monthly basis. And that's the first step you need to do in order to correct it before you get any further.
So before you even get into it, just avoid it like the plague, basically, right?
But sometimes you're already in the plague, you know what I mean? It's like now, I mean, we're all in COVID situation,
that's
right?
True,
like,
that's true.
How do we get out of it? Where do we run to, you know? How can we get out of this? But I think it's still bad basic.
I know so many people with bad credit card debt. Yeah. And they're not young people. They're my age. They're much older and everything. It's not an age thing, isn't it? Credit card mismanagement, I suppose.
No. And you'd be surprised as well. I've got a few clients who are accountants and, you know, they're pretty good with money, right?
Yeah.
And they're in credit card debt.
What? Accountant? What? Really?
Yeah. You'll be surprised.
I gotta speak to my accountant, see how he's handling his own. But actually, is that a good thing to do? Like, before you pick accountants, check how are you dealing with your own money, right? That's a good way to check.
That's a good way to check, I suppose. Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, if you were to ask me, a lot of it has to do with habit temptations, you know, that is out there. Think about it now, you know, everyone's stuck at home. What do you think they're doing? They're maxing their credit card like mad, right? Shopping. Just a couple of days ago, 7/7 sale, you know.
Yeah, but you're right. Boredom does stuff to you in a way.
It does.
Right. Wait, come on. But you don't buy stuff online?
I do.
Right.
I definitely do. But I think it's actually all about being disciplined. It's all about, you know, having good habits in terms of the way you spend. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm a miser and I don't spend on anything and, you know, being stingy and all. But you just have to plan that spending. You know, like for example, like now, if you're getting a pay cut at this point in time, you can't be going to Starbucks every day and having your coffee. Nothing's wrong with, you know, making your own coffee at home or going to a kopitiam to have your decent coffee. It's still coffee.
Yeah.
You know, it's about how do you actually spend within your means, if you were to ask me. So I think at the end of the day, it's also ego at play sometimes. You know, if you're already at Starbucks level, hey, going to kopitiam, you're kidding me, right? You know, I can't lose face. You know, I have to keep that and maintain that standard. But at the end of the day, is it worth it if it's going to break your own pocket?
Yeah.
You know, is it really worth it just to show people that, you know, you're at Starbucks? But I think at the end of the day, some people just can't, you know, accept downgrading, for example. It's almost like, you know, I'm driving a Mercedes, for example, now, and you want me to drive a Kanchil? Are you kidding me? It's actually a lot of things that go through. It's not just about just the money. It's the outlook. How will people see me? How would people view me? What's wrong with you? Is something wrong with your finances? Why can't you not, maintain your lifestyle? So I think it comes back to this very important concept about being true to yourself. Like, spending within your means, being true to yourself. If you have, you have. If you don't, you don't. And it's okay. It's really, really okay. Because at times like this, we've even heard stories, like yesterday online, I heard that people are just, waiting for Grab to come and getting, the food from this Grab fella. And the food doesn't even belong to this lady. She's just trying to feed her family.
Yeah.
That's how bad things are now,
Yeah.
So it's actually coming down to very serious situations that even until today, all of us are most probably now looking in. I mean, the most common question I get these days would be, should I use, my EPF money for today's
Exactly.
meal?
I was wondering about that because now they allow it. And to be honest with you, we always talk about saving for a rainy day, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a very rainy day already, right? Is it time for us to do that? Let's just say you're in your mid-30s or whatever it is. You've got 20 years to go before you're 55 and you're retiring, and you're taking the money out now. Of course, yes, you can take out, I think, 5,000 or whatever it is, right? But should you even touch it?
I would say if you're already like telling me the situation is dire already, right? You've actually emptied your savings account. You don't really have any more emergency funding in place. And that's your last resort. I suppose there is nothing else you can do but withdraw, right? That's the only choice you have.
I mean, we've seen the white flags out there already. Right?
Exactly. So I would say that if it's this serious a condition that you cannot put, the next meal on the table, I would say that would be your next best step in order to withdraw the money. But at the same time, I also see a lot of situations, people who, because, they're still employed, they have funds, but because EPF said you can withdraw money, they're like, aha, let's withdraw now. How do you know whether we still have money in the EPF fund, right?
Yeah.
And they go and buy cars. Okay, JD, I'm not kidding you.
God.
They take out 30,000, they buy a car.
Why?
Cash. Okay, so this is where I'm like, why did you do that? You know what I mean? EPF is giving you fantastic returns of 5%, No banks at this point in time even give you 5% for your FD, okay?
Yeah.
So I would keep my money there, it's safe. It's very safe.
But again, it's sentiments, right? People like, oh, I want a car.
Yeah.
Now they're giving me money. Times are bad. But no matter, I want a car.
Why not?
Yeah, why not, right?
Correct.
It's just good. And you get yourself into even deeper debt because you don't have enough at the end of the day.
That's
right. Debt. There's multiple ones.
Yes.
You're already drowning in debt even before this happened. And then COVID happens. You either lose your job, you're furloughed, or your salary's been cut. I think now people are down like 70% pay cut. How do you survive on 70% pay cut?
It's pretty
How do you
tough.
get out of debt with like these situations around you? Can you get out of that?
It's pretty tough, I would say. If you're not having, your usual cash flow, or the usual salary, and income that you're used to, and you're still living a Duke's lifestyle, it's going to be very, very hard for you to make ends meet. So I would say that I think all of us, we could actually do this much better by being in control of our finances more. So what I mean by that is, you believe in going to see the doctor every year, right? At least once, 2 years once.
Yeah.
Get a health check. Same thing happens also for finance. You need to know where and how healthy you are in terms of, your financial spending. If the cookie jar is empty today and, times are still good, you have the means and the time to fill up the cookie jar. But if you are now dry of your cookie jar and you're not getting the salary, it is very hard for you to fill in the cookie jar. You can't even put meal tomorrow on the table, let alone have, extra savings at the side. So I think these are things that I think the pandemic has really been very much a wake-up call for most of us, like to rethink, reevaluate, how are things really working? Like a lot of us, I'm really surprised with some of the clients that I actually have. They've got 3-4 cars or 3-4 vehicles. How many person are you? You're only one person. How many cars do you really need?
Yeah.
Why do you need so many? Because times are good, you've got the money to splurge on certain things, you do it. But at this point in time, you ask yourself, is it really logical for us to take those actions?
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer is no. So I think it comes back to another aspect, when you're talking about finances, a lot of it is emotional buying.
Yeah.
People buy into things because, it's a great sale. I don't want to lose out. I buy something.
Yeah, don't blame the advertising. It's actually just you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because I see these ads at the same time. I don't go crazy buying another 3 cars or whatever, things that's on sale. If I don't need it, I don't need it. If I need it, I go and buy it and say it's a great deal, because I bought it like 70% off.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually, again, back to basic habits, the good habits, you need to be in control of your finances. You need to be very clear what purchases are really necessity and what purchases are just nice to have. I mean, I'm a female, JD. I can tell you in the past, I'm a shopaholic. So can you just imagine you go out when, those during those good years, those crazy sales that we used to have, the year-end sales.
The Malaysia mega sale. Yeah.
Correct. And you go to a shopping mall, and I swear by this, okay, I can go into a shoe shop. In 5 minutes, I come up with 10 shoes.
Oh my God.
Believe it or not. This, my size, and then happy with it. It looks good, and then I walk out. Swipe my credit card. That's what I used to do. But the question is then you ask yourself, how many feet do you have, my dear girl? How many shoes can I wear at any one point in time? And half the time, I don't even wear all those shoes. Why in the world did I buy them? Because of great sale. So I think it's, about identifying what is actually, really key things that you really need. Whether we're practical about certain purchases or we're very emotional about certain purchases.
Yeah. And also, I suppose this pandemic has kind of pulled the rug from under us and say like, okay, finally you understand you should have been saving a lot earlier on, right?
Yeah. Yes. In fact, I smack my hand every time now when I think about how I used to do shopping. It's like, do you know how much I have saved? Like seriously, I could most probably have retired by now if I could save all this money or have a better life or, achieve more goals in my life, because I had a head start, you know what I mean? So these are things I think a lot of people don't think about. That's why I feel that having the end in mind is actually very important. When you know what you really want in your life and having that very clearly painted in your head, you would start working towards those goals rather than just having crazy, massive spending, not understanding what we're buying. And I think a lot of people these days don't even know what expenses they're actually spending on, how much expenses they're really spending on. Nobody sits down to do the math or, kind of like put some logic to what they're doing. It's just automatic. Every month comes, okay, this date, I just paid this bills. It's just automatic.
I'm not pinpointing anybody. I'm like the ones who are earning on a lower scale that get suckered into buying a lot of stuff that they're the ones who are the victims, right? And then now, because times are bad, no amount of telling myself I did wrong, I should have done anything will fix my situation right now. But hopefully they'll learn and then for the future, right? But at the moment, I don't even know what their future is like for a lot of people because they're so in debt. They have no way to pay for it. Like this 6-month moratorium that we keep hearing about, right?
Yep.
Does that help at all?
Well, it's supposed to, if let's say, you can actually save 6 months of not paying the bank, but there's always a catch.
The interest is still running, isn't it?
Exactly. So, that's why I said in terms of all these relief that, the government is actually giving to us, I do applaud the efforts. Don't get me wrong. But I think as individuals, we need to be a little bit more savvy, a little bit more knowledgeable, a bit smarter to do a little bit more homework on how does this really impact us. But if you're telling me you can't put food on the table, you really, really are suffering, you've got a pay cut, and it's very tough for you to even pay your bills on a monthly basis, yet put food on the table, then I would say it would be better for you to have liquid cash in hand rather than struggle this way. Because we have no idea how long this pandemic is going to be.
Correct.
So I think this is basically logical things that a lot of us need to be very aware of. And I would also urge people, please talk to your respective banks because different banks are also giving you different T&Cs.
Yes.
So don't go and listen to people who say, hey, this is the blanket cover moratorium offer now. Everybody take. Not necessarily. It depends on your situation.
Correct. Yeah, do the math for yourself because it sounds like a great idea, but I've read and I've gone through the financials, right? Like in that 1 year of COVID last year, banks made even more money in some cases, right? Saving for a rainy day. We talked about it slightly earlier, but the thing is, how much to save? Like what would tide us over if we lost our jobs. We don't know how long this is going to last. So what's a right amount to save?
Okay, so for what I see, it's that good rule of thumb in terms of practice would be at least 6 months of your expenses. Okay, however, with COVID today, 6 months doesn't seem sufficient anymore. So if most of us, we can top up the cookie jar to at least 9 months to 12 months, I would say.
Right.
That would be the best practice.
Back in the day, it used to be, how much was it? 10% of your salary you say you put aside and everything after you pay yourself first.
Yeah.
And then you pay the bills or whatever else. So was it 10% back then?
It used to be 10%, but I think if you're talking about most of the gurus, financial gurus, they would say best 20% actually, if you could.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's a safe number, right?
That's a safe number.
Yeah.
So now you spend 20 and then you spend on 80. That's about it. Save 80.
Is it better that if you earn less, that you should save more? I know it sounds counterproductive and everything. I already don't have enough. But if I can live really, really sparingly and I don't have any commitments, I don't have a family to pay to take care of or whatever it is, wouldn't it make more sense for me to just save as much as possible?
Definitely. But I would say that if you were to be saving this money, the question is, where are you saving this money? If you're putting it into FDs and say your bank accounts, your saving accounts, it's not going to get you rich. So again, I would say always go back to the goals that you want to achieve in life. If you are saving for something big, by saving it much earlier, you have compounding interest in place. That is your best friend. Time is your best friend. So this is where a lot of, I would say, younger people, they should start thinking about saving more at this point in time. So it's easier, it's like the saying, sikit-sikit lama-lama jadi bukit, right?
Yep.
It is very, very true in this case, because the earlier you save, you've got a longer period of time, to actually have the compounding interest working for your best interests. So
it's how media frames things, right? Sometimes people always read the wrong things and they say this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, or anything. Like I just want to touch a little bit on misconceptions and not misinformation. I'm pretty sure that the media is giving out, because I'm actually part of the media, right? I'm pretty sure the media is trying to give out as much legit information as possible. It's what you take out of that information, right? Because I keep hearing, like, sometimes you hear, if you're into, especially watch all this Shark Tank or whatever, there's something called good debt, right? But that's only on a business level. It'd be a much higher level and everything that people want to loan you money, right?
Not really. Okay, so for example, a lot of people have this misconception, right, about good debts. Actually, even on individual level, good debts do exist.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it does. Okay, so let me just give you an example, JD. So if you have a house that you're actually now currently staying in, and you've got another property which you are, for example, renting out.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's just do the math. If you're paying the bank, for example, 1,000 ringgit, but you're renting this particular property for 2,000 ringgit, that's a good debt, what?
Right. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because you're actually earning 1,000, you're not paying any money from your personal pocket.
So the bank is going, this guy can cover the repayments like nothing. Okay.
Nothing, so it's like fantastic. You're already getting, in fact, you're getting 1,000 pocket money, So that's good debt, right? So this is where a lot of people are not really leveraging that much on good debts, because a lot of assets that we own are personal use assets.
Okay.
It's not generating you any income.
Right.
So if whatever assets that you have is helping you to generate the income or even helping you to pay for those loans, whoa, that's a good debt.
Right. So it means it's a win-win for the bank and also for you, in the way that after
that. Actually, I would say it's a bigger win for you, .
Right. And then at the point, the bank will go, hey, you want to buy another house or you want another loan? You're so good at this, right? Might as well. Okay.
Actually, a lot of my clients who are into properties and they know how to play this game very well, right? In fact, you'll be surprised. Banks would come to you and say, JD, I give you good loan rate, special one. And this is where you leverage even more from the bank.
Okay. So what do most people get wrong most of the time about debt then? I mean, like, after just what you said, there is such a thing as good debt. But most people are in bad debt. So that means a lot of people are getting the idea of debt wrong. So what do most people get wrong about debt?
I think in terms of getting into the wrong debts, right? It's when they don't look into the entire financial situation in holistic manner.
Mm-hmm.
So, like what I mentioned earlier on, right? You make a decision today. Say, for example, I buy a property, but my cash flow is really very, very tight. So, when I settle the loan for this property, right, it's just cukup only, only every month, So this is actually very bad a situation because you don't have any savings left. You don't have an emergency fund in place. And bam, if something bad happens, say your car breaks down, it's going to cost you 2,000 ringgit just to service and repair.
Okay.
Where are you going to get 2,000? So
you don't have any breathing space.
Yes, okay. I will now leverage on my credit card to so-called rescue me, and there we go. But
that life-saving credit card thing is actually it's not someone throwing you a lifeline. It's actually a weight, and you're already sinking even more, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's because also we are not looking into the finances part. If we're not actually looking into totality. So if you see everything in totality right now, this is your platter. You are very clear in terms of what you're being served. Then you figure out what I want to eat, right?
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. Okay, we are just doing a la carte here, a la carte there, and then we don't see the whole thing until the bill comes. Alamak, you faint. I don't have the money for tonight.
Who ordered lobster?
Exactly. Okay, so that's the problem that we are actually facing with our finances.
I'm sure a lot of people, before they even engage you to help them with a lot of stuff, and I'm sure a lot of your friends go up to you and say, hey, you're a financial planner now. You get asked a lot of stuff.
Yep.
What is the most common thing that people ask you?
It's always about investment. Hey, I got, 10K. Where should I park my money? What should I do with this 10,000? So I think that's the most common question that I get asked. But the most common question I ask them back is, what do you want to do with this 10,000? Tell me what you have in mind first. What do you want to achieve? Because I think that's a more important question to answer rather than where to park your money.
What do I want to achieve if I had 10,000?
Yeah.
If I were to come up to you and I'm like, hey, because I would love for my financial planner to go, you should invest in this, right? Because this is great, whatever it is, share market, whatever it is, all right? I hear that they're doing well or whatever it is, but that's not what you do, isn't it? It's like, what are your, in a way, your dreams, isn't it?
Correct. Because what I always explain to people when you're talking about investment, right? One of the things that people don't understand is there are many, many investment tools out there, but are all of them going to serve you well or going to be, a detrimental investment for you? Because if you're telling me you need this money for something in the next 2 years, and I have invested into something, right, which is for 10 years, your money's locked in there. What are you going to do about it? So isn't the goal at the end of the day very important so that I can get the right tools for you to help that money work harder for you within the time frame that you're looking at? So that's the question I always ask my clients. Don't think about, what tools are out there. There are plenty. Tell me what you want first, then I tell you what you can do.
They go, wait, I wanted answers. Now you have threw me another question, right? But it's very good at. I mean, they need to be very honest with themselves, I suppose, right?
Yes.
But I just want to throw one thing at you though. When people say it, then they come up to you, hey, I've got 10 grand and I'm okay, I'm quite comfortable.
Right.
What do I want to do with it? Then you ask me, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to grow this money, right? I want to have more. I want to invest it in something.
Right.
Should I invest in cryptocurrency? What would you say to them?
Oh, I will always ask them again. What do you want this money for? When you say grow the money for what?
Yeah.
Is it for your children's education? Is it for your retirement planning? Is it to, within a short period of money, just to settle your loans? What is it first? So even with that, I mean, going into crypto is nothing wrong. It's still very, very high risk. And the next question would be, if you insist you want to go into crypto, are you sure you got the right appetite?
It's because it's risky, right? I'm not going to put my kids' education on the line, right?
That's right. Okay. That's right. So I think it comes back, check and balance has to be there in terms of, I'm happy to receive this money, but I'm not greedy for this money at this point in time until I can really help you to realize your dreams. Not have you curse me later on and, say, you never told me about this and that.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the very important things that we also realize today. If you had 10,000 right now, wouldn't you want it safe rather than just burning it when times are so bad?
Yeah. Your clients, though, when they come up to you, what kind of clients do you have? Are they the ones who are like in deep debt and they want to get out of it, or when they come up to you, they're like, I've got money, right?
I've got both.
And really? Okay, so
Yes, I've
which
got
is the one
both.
that has more problems?
I would say rich man got rich man problem lah. Poor man also got poor man problem. So I would say you just need to know how to be able to tackle the respective financial issues that they really have, and to help them to achieve whatever it is that really wants. Because everyone's dream is different, everyone's goals are different. No two person are ever alike.
It's all relative, yeah.
Yeah, it's all relative. So again, one man needs another man's poison, right? So we just have to see what's the best solution for them, and then work together with them to make it happen.
But generally, what's the biggest one that always you're like, another one?
I think if you were to ask me for the past 1 year, a lot of them have actually gotten retrenched. So their major concern when they come and see me is actually, to help them stretch their ringgit a little bit more. Because if you're in certain professions, for example, if you're one of the pilots or, you're in the travel industry, you can't basically do anything at this point in time.
Yeah.
So they need to figure out how to, stretch that ringgit longer, or what can they do in order to better sustain. I've actually helped them to, cut expenses and increase their income in some way or another, to really safeguard them for a bit longer. So these are the people that I've actually been working with today. But most of my clients are, professionals in many ways, and some of them are affected, some of them are not. So that's the reality of things lah.
Did you have any clients before who was like doing quite well, and then when this happened, they're like, then suddenly their portfolio changed? You were a pilot before, now you're selling char kway teow, but you seem to be doing a lot better now selling char kway teow than before.
Well, there are stories, or rather, I don't have personal clients of mine in this situation, but I do have friends, that are financial planners that experience this as well. So I think, one of the things we actually realize is during the pandemic, when you're pushed to the very, very edge, right? Suddenly all fantastic talents, suddenly pops up, you find different way of surviving, for some of them are so creative that, it's out of the box that they are making big bucks now at this point in time, riding the wave.
Yeah.
So I would say that in every, situation, there's always, opportunity, there's always a silver lining out there. You just have to look for it. So that's one of the things to thrive and to survive at this point in time.
Some people are not able to do that because they're skilled in only one thing. They're very good at it. But when things, pardon the term, when shit hits the fan, they're like, oh, what do I do now? I only have this amount to play with.
Yes.
Do I get a financial planner right now? But I'm already just ngam. Isn't getting a financial planner expensive? You know what I mean?
No.
How much does it cost to get a financial planner?
I would say, for a couple hundred of ringgit, you can already get financial advice from a financial planner, rather than, just getting, like free or cheap advice out there, that doesn't really help you. Yeah. So I would say for most of them, if you can actually even afford few hundred ringgit to get proper solution, wouldn't that not help you save a lot of money?
Yeah.
It would. Okay, so I would share with you, like most of my clients are out there, they always tell me that, oh my God, is this all you're charging me? Do you know how much you've actually helped me save? It's like multiple folds from what, you've just charged me. So this is what they tell me. In fact, some of them are saying, I think I'm underpaying you, am I not? But I was like, say, I gave you value, didn't I not? It's like, what's the problem? So I think this is where a lot of people have the misconception as well, that we cost an arm and a leg, and it's really not worthwhile to talk to us. But for those people who has actually seen a financial planner or consulted with us, they actually save a lot more in terms of, future income, or even if, let's say, you're really tight right now, how does stretching your current whatever you have for another 6 months sound to you? Even if you pay me a few $100, you'll be happy too, right? Like
yeah.
Who's gonna help you stretch another 6 months?
It's not like you're going for therapy and you have to pay a couple of $100 every session. This is just a one-time deal, right?
Yeah.
I guess now earlier I talked about Google, and I'm not saying that everything on Google is bad. I'm like, there's really good information on Google.
Yes.
In fact, Sajid, if you're actually listening to this in Singapore and you're watching this, I love Google. Google, if you're going to invest in the Jantan Collective, you should. But anyway, back into this. Is going online the best place to find information about debt and getting out of debt and debt management, I suppose. Is that a good place to go to just randomly just Google something?
I would say Google is very good and very helpful, when you don't have anything to start off with. So it does give you a very general guide, in terms of what potentially you could consider doing. But I would again say that it's much better for you to sit with a professional to really figure out what's the right, solution for you, because every situation that we're in is slightly different in one way or another. Google gives you a very generic answer. So it may not really cater to the pain that you have or even the solution that you're really seeking to, just give you that relief. So I would say always speak to a professional to get the answers. But
Taylor, make it for you,
Google.
right?
Yeah. It's much better.
Google for financial planners around your area who can help you. I think that's a good way to start, right? But if you want to find out more, I think you can just check out Pauline's socials. Go check her out on her LinkedIn page, Pauline Teoh Finance. So let's just get straight to the important stuff. People are struggling right now, right? And I really want to help them get out of this instantly. It's tough because when you invest, it's long term. Some people kind of get food on the tables right now, right? So, but there are some who can manage. They don't have a lot of money nowadays, but they're trying to just manage their finances. What advice would you give everyone out there, if you could just give 3 pieces of advice or even one really good one about debt, about their debt?
I would say start looking at all the debts that you have, put them all into one page, and be very clear in terms of what debts you have right now. Okay. And the most important thing that you need to figure out also is how to consistently be able to clear them over a period of time. So the cash flow part is actually very, very important. Okay. So in terms of the debts that you have, try to figure out whether are those debts really something that you need, okay, or are those debts something that you can actually get rid of. For example, if you got 2 cars, get rid of one of them, settle one deal.
Okay.
That helps you reduce the debt one way or another. Okay, so these are things that we need to now, you have time. So look into your finances, have a very clear picture in mind. That would be a start, I would say.
And I think it's one of those moments where you really need to sit down in your quiet time and really reflect, close your eyes and go, I've spent too much money on buying shoes. So it's one of those moments where you just really need to reflect on your past mistakes and move forward and don't dwell on it. So
that's right.
It's hard to save money now. You should have been saving money a long time ago because the rainy day is here already.
Yeah.
But if you could, what would be your tips, your hacks, your life hacks or tricks to save money right now?
Okay, so for saving money, right, I would actually urge everybody to go through your cash flow, detail out all your finances, okay, whatever expenses that you have, how much income are you bringing in, and look into the finances itself, right, and ask yourself, what are the areas you can cut? What is nice to have versus must have? That would be the first step for you to trim off the fat.
Yeah, and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. As you mentioned, sikit-sikit, lama-lama jadi bukit. It counts. It counts for a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It definitely does.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone. I know your kids are at home and they need to study at home and everything, but I don't think you need the 1 gigabyte speed internet at home. 500 is fine, maybe 300 is fine as well, and you're saving like $50 a month.
Yes.
And then don't take as many long showers and you mentioned Starbucks.
Yeah.
A lot of people like need their lattes every single day, but I think you just can do with a kopi o once in a while, right? So I think that's really, really good. And I definitely will be like, if I were to go to any financial planner, to be honest, Pauline, it would be you, because we know where we're at right now, and you need to have a good relationship with your financial planner, don't you?
Definitely. Actually, you can check out one of the posts that I've actually written on LinkedIn, where I actually tell you, beware of your financial planners. There's an article on it.
The whole thing that we've been talking about is to have a financial planner, and now you're saying beware. Okay, what's going on here? Why?
Okay, basically, things that like what we discussed earlier on, right? People who are bogus financial planners. How do you actually see the right ones from, the ones that claim to be financial planners?
Right.
So basically, that particular article helps you to ask the financial planner the right questions to get you ahead to where you want to go and not to fall into the trap of engaging the wrong one.
Okay. So look for, I remember you mentioned RFP, Registered Financial Planner, and the other one is?
A Certified Financial Planner, CFP.
Right. But even with those,
even with that, make sure that they are licensed with Bank Negara and Securities Commission, which there is actually a website for you to even check whether they are, whether the license is actually enforced.
So how do you check? I'll go into the Bank Negara website or what?
Yeah, I can actually provide you with a link so that you can actually go in to check it out. And
okay, check it out right now. We're gonna put it up on the screen right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Look through because it's really important for you. Okay.
Yeah. All right. And the second thing you really need to know is for licensed financial planners, the difference is we are actually being scrutinized every year, as in, to get the license every year, right? It's not just automatically renewed. We will need to, substantiate, documents for them to really go through to make sure that, we're not in any debt situation, we're not in bad debt situation, or even undergoing bankruptcy, AKPK kind of case, before we get our license renewed.
Right. So you have your own, it's not really KPIs, but it's actually your own personal life that if you're giving out advice, you better be walking the talk.
We have to be financially fit, right?
Right.
I mean, I can't be bankrupt and try to help you out of bankruptcy. It doesn't work.
Correct.
I need to be fit first before I can actually help another person and rescue them. So this is where it's actually very different. If let's say you're talking about the agents have, for example, it's just automatically renewed. No one actually checks whether are you doing a good job, are you doing a bad job out there. So this is where for us it's really highly regulated.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually very, very different. So check out that article, okay? Make sure that you get the right financial planner and you work together with the right people to get you ahead in life because, hey, this is what we all are living for, right? To have a better life, not to have a worse and terrible one. So work with the right people.
Think you have time and then you hit 40 and you hit 45. You're like, whoa, I don't have much time left already. It sounds like I might have another 30 years to go, but really you don't. You need to do it right now. And it's never too late, isn't it, Pauline?
Never. I would say starting now is better than never starting at all, or finding out when you are actually at that junction and realizing I can't do anything anymore because, tomorrow is my retirement day. So I can't turn back the clock and say, I'm going to work for another 20 years.
I know people are ready to times are tough. I'm going to work for the rest of my life. Yeah. But you know what? We can still have that dream of, actually, Pauline, I just thought about it. If I did have a dream, of what I want to do with whatever it is that the money I have, right, is to retire early so I can actually invest in a business that I really want to do, right?
Fantastic.
That's a legit why, right?
Yes, it is. And what happens is that when you work with financial planners, we can actually make sure before you retire, you have sufficient money to last you till old age and still do whatever you love to do.
Now, here's a very interesting section that we always get all our guests to do. Yeah. And we would love your thoughts. Based on who you are, based on what you do. It's slightly generic, slightly general, but we would love to hear what your thoughts are on this. The whole point of the Jantan Collective is for Jantans to be better versions of themselves, right? And it comes from many different things, from being less sexist, less egotistical, less this, less that, whatever it is, right? So from a financial planner's point of view, from someone who used to be in the MNCs, for someone who used to go into a shoe shop and buy 10 shoes in 5 minutes, right? Any advice for Jantans out there?
Take control of the money. Otherwise, money would take control of you. Okay, so be on top of things. And I would also say that financial planning, it's really very, very crucial. It's like your roadmap to success. Have that and you're actually going to be ahead. And I would also say start with the end in mind because that will actually give you very clear goals for you to focus on and to get ahead to wherever direction you want to go in life.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Jantans today?
I think in totality, not just Jantans, but even, Malaysians as a whole, we really, really lack on financial awareness. The literacy part of what we should or shouldn't do is so low. And I think a lot of us don't plan. Okay, it's very sporadic, we only live once, right? So YOLO all the way, and this is where we get caught in terms of, the situation that we're in today as well. And I think a lot of us don't really think very deeply about goals, defining them, being clearer in terms of what we want to achieve in life, rather than just paycheck to paycheck. So I would say that this would be the biggest challenge most of us, not just Jantans, but even females, we actually face the same thing.
Yeah, I love that because you mentioned YOLO, right? Because I
Yeah.
think YOLO and FOMO have fucked us. I'm sorry, pardon my French. Okay, has screwed us over so much.
Yes.
'Cause live. If you're not happy, you need to find your happiness somewhere, right? Oh my God. All right. Next, what should or what can Jantans do better?
I would say all of us, when it comes to financials, it is okay to ask for help. Okay, and it's okay not to be okay. That's one thing that all of us need to be very, very clear, because we're all on the same boat. Okay, and I think in terms of the ego that we have, like for example, the belief that I always hear people say, or as an excuse, don't want to talk to financial planners, is because of the ego. I cannot lose space, to share with them how's my actual financial situation is. I would say that would be an area that we all can do better. And I would say also for singles, make the money work harder for you. If you're young and you are YOLOing right now, you have all the time and the opportunity to focus on something greater and better. Don't wait till you get married, okay, in order to start. Okay, that's a little bit too late. And for people who are married, I would say have an honest and open discussion with your partners on finances. I can bet you, JD, most of us don't do it.
Yeah,
your money
true.
is your money, my money is my money. Okay? It doesn't work that way. Finance doesn't work that way. Okay, if you're in a marriage, everything has to be open and honest. You have to talk about finances and be comfortable to talk about it.
Wow, my connection suddenly got really, really bad. I don't know what's going on. No, okay. That's actually quite true. And to be honest, I think most couples are quite open, but I think we can be more open. All right.
Yeah.
What's the best thing about Jantan stuff?
I think whatever you guys are doing is really fantastic. It's bringing a lot of awareness, to even females, what's males thinking and vice versa. So I think we have a long way to go, and helping, Mars and Venus to reunite.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Now, this is a slightly strange question. If you were a Jantan,
right,
what's the best thing about being a Jantan?
I think it's the freedom, that you guys really have. Your mothers don't have to tell you to do things and what to do and what not to do. So I think that's the best thing about being a Jantan. You really leave YOLO, seriously, compared to females.
Pauline, thanks so much for this. This has been great. Expect me to call very, very soon and talk about my bad online shopping habits and how I need to cut back on that.
Cool. We can work on that.
Thanks, Pauline.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me.
That was a very interesting and enlightening chat. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion that we had with Pauline about that. What new thing did you learn? Did we miss anything that you would like to know? Well, I'll tell you what, let us know in the comments down below, because it's important that you tell us and then we can get on it ASAP. But you know what? Ultimately, thank you so much for watching. And remember, don't be a dick.